Unless the government provides the tools in terms of changes to the planning system, giving local authorities or groups of authorities greater powers, and crucially, especially in regard to the public sector, having funding available, the target will just be a target. You can only deliver if you're prepared to provide the means to finish the job. I think the main thing is to simplify the planning system, but also to make sure that local authorities, planning authorities, do actually have a plan for more housing in their area. And I would like to add to that where it's appropriate, perhaps the establishment of a housing corporation, as we used to do, or authorities acting together, particularly in outside London and the South East, where we want more economic focus. But in addition to that, the government also has to make sure that funding is available for the likes of housing associations, where they've changed the rules recently, and also, of course, to make sure there's the transport. There's the schools and the hospitals that go with all this. Now, there's no way the government can stand back and say, well, we just hope all this will happen, because it won't. If you want the private developers to produce more land, it's partly a planning issue, but it's perhaps worth looking again at the recommendations by Sir Michael Lyons, who the Labour Party commissioned in the last Parliament to advise, where he came up with one proposal that if you get planning permission, you use it or lose it, because part of the problem is you've got this land banking problem, where it can sometimes not be in a developer's interest to release land because it would depress the price of housing. So I think you need to look at it from both sides. But the point is, none of this is going to work unless you have a drive, implemented, of course, and influenced by people up and down the country. But if central government doesn't play a role, it isn't going to happen. This country has a long history of announcing something and taking years before something is actually delivered. I remember opening the M6 Expressway in the early part of the last decade, and I was asked whether it was a great achievement of the Labour government, and I had to say, well, it was Harold Wilson's Labour government of the 1960s where it was first planned, which gives you some idea of how long these things happen. The only way you can speed it up is by making sure that you can try and speed up the planning process, making sure the funding's available, and then getting diggers on the ground.